Hi everyone, welcome to the senior level course entitled Advanced Instrumentation Methods in Chemoinformatics and Analytical Chemistry. Now, this is a senior level course, and you should have passed quantitative analysis or analytical chemistry lectures in the labs prior to taking this course. And also, you should have, when I say pass, you should have obtained a grade of C or higher. And also, you should have passed already your sequence in calculus as well as physics, and should have taken a course in statistics. So, as the name implies, we're going to study the various instruments used in analytical chemistry as well as the area of chemometrics. Now, we're going to cover section 1, foundations, instrumental methods, and chemometrics first. And we're going to tackle 3 lessons for the first 10 minutes. First, we're going to discuss what are analytical methods, and also what are instrumental electronics and why do we need it, and also the signal processing techniques, and signal and noise. With the various instruments that we have right now, we would want to eliminate noise and increase signal. And how do we do this here? Okay. So let's go first to section 1, lesson 1, the analytical methods. So what are the learning objectives of this? We would want to know the different classification of analytical methods. And also, we would want to know the different types of instrumental techniques. And we would want to have some background also in chemometrics. What is really chemometrics? As the name implies, chem, that is simply chemistry, and metrics, that is simply measurement. In other words, is measurement in chemistry. In analytical chemistry, this is more of a review also of your background way back in sophomore quantitative analysis. We know that in any kind of research, either we could identify the species present, and also we are interested also in determining how much of the species is present in a sample. So we have qualitative method, that is, we're interested in determining the identity of the species in a sample. Species referred to, like for example, compound or analyte. Or a quantitative method, we want to know how much of the species is present in a sample. So quality and quantity. And we can also classify analytical methods as either classical or instrumental. Classical is more of an old-fashioned kind of method, and it can either be classified as qualitative or quantitative. Common qualitative classical methods are those that can be detected using our senses, especially using our eyes. It is recognizable by colors or solubility, odors also, and optical properties. Quantitative, on the other hand, we have gravimetric and volumetric, and I will discuss this in the next slide. And we have also instrumental methods. Now, what is the difference between these two types of techniques? In the classical, it actually does not use expensive instrumentation. It's more of like a manual kind of analysis. In other words, it takes actually longer to do the analysis. However, if we have instrumental methods, it's actually faster. So in other words, instrumental methods deal with sophisticated instruments. So gravimetric technique, we're interested in determining the mass of the analyte. In the titometric technique, it's more of a volume, okay, or mass of a standard reagent that is required to react completely with the analyte that was measured. So again, gravimetric is the mass, and the titometric technique is more of a volumetric kind of technique. Okay, and also in instrumental methods, these are newer methods. You might have probably heard in analytical chemistry chromatography. So we will deal with chromatographic techniques here and electrophoretic techniques. And don't be overwhelmed with these techniques because we're going to study this piece by piece. Now, I know that there's a lot of information here, and don't be overwhelmed, okay? And this are the different types of instrumental methods. I will not ask you to memorize each of this, okay? So in the left column, you have different characteristic properties. In other words, like for example, okay, if a radiation is emitted, that is emission of radiation, how can we detect it? Okay, so different types of instruments can detect the radiation or emission of radiation. Specifically, we can use emission spectroscopy, fluorescence, phosphorescence, or luminescence kind of technique. What if we absorb the radiation instead of emitting it? Okay, we can use, like for example, spectrophotometry or NMR technique, okay, or ESR, nuclear magnetic resonance and electron spin resonance technique. So again, in general, the left column here tells us the different properties, our characteristic properties, and then the right column, the different techniques or instruments that can be used to detect these different characteristic properties. Now, we need instruments, like we say, because it makes our life easier. But, it may sound complicated at first, but actually, any kind of instrument only require three basic components. First, we need to have a stimulus. In other words, an energy source, like for example, a radiation. And then once that radiation hits the sample, which is the system under study, then it gives a characteristic response or analytical information. Okay, so again, the instruments for analysis only require three basic components. We need to have stimulus, okay, and then also we need to have the system under study and also analytical information. Okay, so again, to wrap up our conversation for now, okay, we have discussed about the different analytical methods. So if you recall, what are those? So we have discussed qualitative and quantitative analytical methods. And also, we have discussed what are the different types of analytical methods. Besides the qualitative and quantitative, we can also classify as classical or instrumental methods, and that different instruments can detect different characteristic properties. So we will have a few minutes break, and we will have some exercises on the board to have a recollection of what we have discussed.